The final days of the Babylonian siege on Jerusalem were among the darkest in all of Israelite history. And when the Babylonians finally ended their siege, they took most of the people living in the war-torn country of Judah into exile in Babylon, including the writer of chapters 40 through 66 in the book of Isaiah, sometimes called Second Isaiah. Through his words, we see firsthand the thoughts, the hopes, and the fears of these exiled people. One of the focal points to emerge in this exilic prophecy is the servant theme. The servant symbolizes the hope for restoration. Second Isaiah wrote his prophecies thinking that the return to Judah was imminent. That dates this prophet's work to the time just before the edict of King Cyrus in 538 BC. Dr. Lynn Demmin is on the staff at the United Methodist Publishing House. She will bring to light this important servant theme.
In the last session, we looked at the punishment the people of Israel received because of their disobedience. We know that they were sent into exile in Babylonia. They were here in Palestine, and they were sent into exile over here in Babylonia. And we know something about what their life was like in that foreign country. In this segment, we get to hear the good news. Second Isaiah, prophet of the exile, proclaims a message of restoration. He begins by saying in chapter 40 that restoration is at hand. He says to these people in exile, yes, you have suffered. And not only this, but more. You have suffered double for your sins. But that suffering is about to end. You're going home. The restoration that this prophet speaks of was brought about by an edict from King Cyrus of Persia in 538 BC. Archaeologists have discovered this edict written on a clay cylinder. You can read this edict for yourself in the book of Ezra, chapter 1, verses 2 to 4. You're going home. Try to imagine that message falling on your ears after spending 40 or 50 years in exile in a foreign land. The previous session ended with a glimmer of hope. The prophet Jeremiah purchased a plot of land as a sign of his certainty that the people of Israel would again inhabit their land. Now, that hope is taking shape some 50 years later. And into this atmosphere of expectation steps the servant of the Lord. Let's take a few minutes to look at 2nd Isaiah's prophecies that concern the suffering servant. There are 4 of these passages in the latter portion of the book of Isaiah. They're found at 42, 1 to 4, 49, 1 to 6, 50, 4 through 11, and 52, 13 to 53, 12. A lot of mystery and fascination surround these 4 texts. For centuries, people have asked, who was this servant really? Was it the nation of Israel? Was it someone the prophet knew? Was it someone the prophet imagined? Was it the prophet himself? We'll come back to these questions after we've looked at the servant songs and their messages. If we take these 4 passages out of their context for a minute and look at them together, we see a kind of drama involving God, the servant, and the people of Israel. These players come in and out of focus as the message unfolds. So let's see what happens. In chapter 42, verses 1 to 4, we're first introduced to the servant. We can't really call him the suffering servant yet. His suffering isn't mentioned until later in the drama. In this opening scene, God speaks concerning the servant, his call, his role, his instructions for how he's to accomplish his mission. And what is his mission? He is to bring forth justice. And not only that, but more. He is to bring forth justice not just to the people of Israel, but to the whole world. In this passage, God calls the servant, my chosen. In other places in the Old Testament, the word chosen is used to refer to God's people, Israel. In a sense, then, the servant in this first song represents the whole people of Israel. Not only will God restore the people, but more. God's people will become as servants to bring about the conversion of the nations. And they will do this quietly, peacefully, and faithfully, according to the prophet. The servant's mission is definitely low-key. His voice will not be heard in the streets. and the commotion created by the message will not even quench a dimly burning wick. The second servant song is found in chapter 49, verses 1 through 6. Here, the speaker changes. Now the servant speaks, accepting the challenge God issued in the previous portion of the drama. As we listen to the servant speak, we're reminded of the prophet Jeremiah. He too was called to task even before he was born. Like Jeremiah, the servant's mouth is his instrument to accomplish his task. And, like Jeremiah, this servant of the Lord works through adversity, sure in the knowledge that God is by his side to support him. In the concluding verse of this song, the servant quotes God and summarizes his own mission. Not only is the servant's task directed to Israel, not only this, but more. The servant accepts the challenge to bring about the salvation of the whole world. The image used is a famous one. The servant is called to be a light to the nations. In the third portion of this drama, in chapter 50, verses 4 through 11, the servant speaks to us again. The subject is his task and how he intends to accomplish it. Not only will he work quietly and efficiently, not only that, but more. He will set his face like flint in the face of adversity. He will turn his back to the smiters. He can respond in this way because he's confident of God's presence with him. In the conclusion to this song, in verses 10 and 11, the prophet speaks to his audience, demanding a response to the servant's life and mission. Again, the image of light is used. Those who walk by their own light really walk in darkness. Those who walk by God's light will walk in safety and security. Chapter 53 brings this drama to its conclusion. The address goes back and forth between God and the people who know the servant. According to God, not only will the servant prosper, not only this, but more. He will astonish the whole world. His early life on earth was unimpressive. Now he's diseased and his appearance is repulsive. Unlike Job, the servant suffers in silence. The prophet compares his silence to that of sheep going to be slaughtered. But his silent suffering serves a very important purpose. He suffers for the sins of others. Not only will this servant be restored, not only this, but more. The servant's suffering will bring about the restoration of the whole people. So who was this servant? Clearly an individual who represents the people of Israel. Although 2nd Isaiah did not portray this servant as a Messiah in the political sense of that word, the New Testament writers use these texts as background for the life and work of Jesus. So God restores the people, and through these servant songs, we see that there is even more to it than that. God restored, but God also did more. God made Israel, represented by this servant, a light to the nations to convert the world to God.